Good morning, friends. How's everyone doing today? Well, welcome back to our weekly garden walk and talk. In case you're new here, my name is Danielle and I garden on half an acre in south central Pennsylvania. And this year I've been doing a weekly garden walk and talk on Saturday mornings just to catch you up on what's blooming in my garden and what I've been able to accomplish that week or not accomplish, and also what we have to look forward to in the days ahead. So today Rocky is out here with me. Some of you might have seen on Instagram that Rocky hurt his leg last week, or it was 2 weeks ago, I guess. So this is actually his first day back outside because he's been on house arrest and he really did not enjoy that. So let's start back here at the back of the flower walk where we have some gorgeous gladiator alliums just starting to open up. These are going to get bigger. Beautiful, tight, round balls, really tall stems on gladiator, and I like gladiator because it blooms early. I have some purple sensation over in the driveway garden. That one also blooms early, but it's a little bit shorter, so I really like to have these really tall blooms over here in the early May garden. Today is May 3rd for frame of reference. And I do like the contrast here between the purple and the lime green spirea. And soon we'll have these vibrant magenta peonies in bloom with a hedge of catmint. We'll circle back around so you can see what's beside me and behind me because I have some gorgeous, really old viburnums in bloom at the moment. But I'll back up a little bit so you can see what it looks like going from one gate to another. Grace is inside today, so Rocky can take it easy. But this is what you see when you enter the gate to the garden. Sprinter boxwood here, gold splash euonymus, gold splash euonymus. I promised you guys I wouldn't really edit these videos, so if I stumble over my words, it's because I'm running very low on coffee by the time we hit golden hour here in the garden. You'll see a lot of these purple iris in bloom, and I brought these over from our old apartment. We used to live in a hardware store that had been converted into apartments, and the only thing that we had in bloom over there when we moved in were these purple irises. So every single purple iris you see is from that old hardware store that we used to live in. I did a lot of dividing, moving around this year, trying to get just a lot better at repeating the same plant over and over again, and we're going to focus in on that all month. I ordered a whole bunch of the same perennial from Walter's Gardens, and so I ordered in groups of 15. I think it was only 5 cultivars total. So 5 new cultivars, but 15 of each, so that we can really repeat them over and over and over again. Beautiful snowball viburnum in bloom now. Hey, let me ask you guys a question. Do you get black bean aphid on your snowball viburnum? I seem to get that. Maybe in about 1 more month, it seems like they show up. Negrita double tulips fading now. We planted these totally tangerine Geums last year. I finally found them at a nursery that was kind of far away. So I bought 3, we planted them together, and then about a month ago I divided them and put those divisions around the garden. And it's interesting, so I divided these and left one side of the division in the ground, and then I took the division and put some over here, and you'll see some again later on, but you see the division that I actually had to pull out of the ground and move. Much, much shorter, but still beautiful. We're gonna have catmint in bloom by the time we walk and talk next week. Alba bleeding heart is in bloom now. And I think this area right here is where we're going to put the new alfresco fountain. And I believe that has been shipped. So I think we'll be able to get it into the garden this week. Won't that be exciting? Have that sound of water back here in the garden once again. My ball fountain broke, was it last year or the year before? But I think that was a blessing in disguise because it was a really quiet fountain. So the alfresco fountain is nice and loud. So there's a total of 35 gladiator alliums in the main flower walk. Right there I have some Dame's rocket, and our real estate agent gave me that Dame's rocket when we first moved in. She also gave me the Solomon seal that you'll see later on. You can see the Negrita double tulips over here that get a lot more shade. They're still looking pretty good. They're fading, but in the shade, they're not quite as spent as the ones in the sun. And you can see some Dame's rocket being repeated there. So as we pass our flower lady, we'll see some lady's mantle. And the bleeding heart is starting to go over now, I guess. It's just getting really hot really quickly here. It was 90 degrees in April. That's really crazy for our area. This is the area where I had to pull out all the tulips a few days ago. They had tulip fire. I was toying with the idea of putting gladiolus here, but I decided not to do that. I'm going to do some anemones here instead. So if you can imagine that with anemones, we have some nice texture here. A beautiful smooth hydrangea, that's the old school Annabelle. A really large hosta that was from my parents' garden before they moved to this area. And soon we'll have that oak leaf hydrangea in bloom. This area is surrounded with Amsonia, and Amsonia is one of the plants that I ordered a lot of this year from Proven Winners. I love the blue flowers, but I think the foliage is what I love the most. It looks great now, and in the fall, of course, it's just that blazing yellow color. This must be a different cultivar than these ones that I probably purchased at a later date. But I think the stone rug is looking pretty good. Not too much in bloom there now. And to get a different view of how the stone rug connects to the hydrangea room, let's walk through the hydrangea room and then to the raised bed garden together. So all of the daffodils in the hydrangea room have been deadheaded. Most of the tulips are passing on now. So I'm really relying on the shrubs to take over, the bearded iris, the beautiful Mount Everest alliums. I'm really relying on those plants to carry us over in terms of blooms during this beginning portion of May. So there are some reblooming lilacs in this area. The main difference that I see with these reblooming ones versus the older varieties, which I really adore, is that these don't have too much, if any, fragrance, but they're still beautiful. And I like that the bloom structure is a little more open than the older varieties also. Looks great in floral design. You know what? This one holds a lot better in floral design than the older ones. So that's a positive. Sacrifice scent for longevity in the vase there. So there's more of that purple bearded iris from our old home. And my husband calls that the grape soda flower. He has really weird and quirky names for all the flowers in our garden. He calls foxglove ding dong bells. He should do a garden tour one time. That would be hilarious. Look at this bearded iris that bloomed today. Does anyone recognize this variety? I don't remember planting a white bearded iris, but I'm gonna have to review my notes, see if I can figure out what it is. Let me know if you recognize her. I can see myself wanting to add white bearded iris. I just can't really recall when I planted that or why I would have just planted one. So if I pull us back and around, I think I mentioned that I removed the really large panicle hydrangea that used to be right here because I really want to keep things a little bit lower this year so that we can see through the garden a little bit better, especially as we get later into the growing season when my garden gets really tall. I wanted certain pictures to stay, I wouldn't say low, but more of like a mid-range height versus feeling like a jungle. I often feel like by the time we hit August, it feels and looks like a jungle back here. So I'm trying to get better, figure out how to make some adjustments. The Mount Everest Alliums are just starting to open now. Once again, I really love how tall this allium is. And I'm disguising their dying foliage with daffodil foliage, which dies a little more slowly. Allium foliage dies as they bloom, and that can be kind of hard to deal with because right as the allium is blooming, their foliage looks tattered and yellow and the tips look brown. So I always try to hide them in and amongst perennials or other bulbs. Doesn't that look beautiful together? And it's funny, they really do smell like grape soda. So let's go ahead and I'll turn us this way. So I think since you saw the library the last time, I've kind of extended this area, and I've also created a pathway back and around to the library, and also, well, let's just walk over there. So I don't think this pathway was here before. We had kind of this narrow grass pathway that led back to more kind of grass that would be there randomly, and it was really hard to cut. So I've just been hoarding cardboard, and I just put cardboard down everywhere, all around the library. And then when the mulch went on sale at Lowe's for $2, I just kept getting as many bags as the truck could handle. And I think I'm going to be really glad that I did this because I really want to do less maintenance on things that I don't really love doing. So even if it's just that I save myself, 10 minutes cutting the grass over there and getting out the weed whacker, I think that's worth it at the end of the day. So in these front two raised beds, we have ranunculus. And I did see that we have some bloom stalks appearing. I don't really think they're going to be open for Mother's Day, just because it's going to be raining nonstop and it's going to get really cold again and overcast. I don't know. We'll see what happens. They don't all have bloom stalks. But I'm also seeing that, we have some bachelor's buttons that popped up. We also have this, which is a terrible thing to see. This is Tree of Heaven, so I'm going to pull that out. Oh, didn't get the whole thing. That's what the spotted lanternfly really likes. But look at this. I'm seeing these feverfew seedlings all throughout this bed where we sowed the forget-me-nots, which are right here. So I'm just going to let everything go and see what happens over here. We might end up with a really happy accident. So all of these tulips are pretty much done now. And I plan on pulling them in about a week. As always, we'll end in the library for our book chat. Back in this bed, I'm experimenting with interplanting strawflower and gladiolas. So those are already in there together. Here, once again, I took your advice, just did more sunflowers. This is a single cut sunflower. These are the Pro Cut Peach. And then I've been mulching around them with grass clippings. And I'm just gonna keep flipping this bed with sunflowers until the season comes to an end. But last time we had a garden tour together, I was able to show you a before and after picture from a particular view. And I think I have a picture of what this looked like when we first moved in. So there's still a lot of work to be done back here, but I think we're trending in the right direction. I'm going to go ahead and pull all of these tulips in about 3 to 4 days. The two central beds, I'm going to put Asiatic lilies, and then I'm going to come immediately in and seed Saponaria, Bupleurum, and Nigella around those lilies. And then on the exterior beds, I'm going to do a mix of vegetables and dahlias. So I'm really excited about that. I think that will be really fun. So as we head over to the driveway garden, I'll try and answer some questions that came in this week. A question that I often see is in regards to irrigation. I don't have any supplemental irrigation. I don't have any drip irrigation. And up until last summer, when we put in the instant hedge, I didn't even own a hose. And that's because when we moved in here, our house had been, I don't know how to say this except vandalized in a really weird way. So if you went down into our basement, a shunned Amish man was living here prior to us. And what had happened was he had basically cut all the power lines and all the utility lines in the basement, kind of vandalized them and lit them on fire. So our house was called a handyman special, farmette. That's how it was listed. Nothing really worked. We couldn't live here for many months after buying it. Anyway, all that to say, we didn't have a hose and we didn't have a spigot that worked, but that's just telling of how often it rains here. I didn't even think to fix that spigot. So the sun is really nice now. This must be golden hour. Here's a look back to the library. Another question I get is about fertilizing plants and flowers. That's not something that I do personally, but I'm all for whatever everyone wants to do in their garden. And that could be too, just we get so much rain, and I focus a lot on adding a lot of compost into my soil. It's not something that I've ever even really tried to do heavily. Speaking of fertilizer, here is a comfrey plant. This is a beautiful view now, isn't it? The light's much better now than before. There's a comfrey plant which makes really good all natural fertilizer. You can just cut that down, put the leaves in a bucket with water, cover it up, and let it sit for like a month, and it'll stink really, really, really bad. And then you can dilute it and use that as a fertilizer if you want. But this is looking really beautiful now that the sun set. I almost feel like I need to be quiet when the sun sets, you know? Let the garden sleep. Don't be too loud. Creeping phlox in bloom now. I think we planted that together. Oh, some of our native woodland phlox. Did Rocky just climb the tree with his hurt leg? Well, I guess he's not taking it easy after all. So here we go, friends. Sorry for the shaky camera work. There's our rain barrel and just some things that we all have that we need to store, like the wonderful pooper scooper and the garbage cans. But that's the other gate. Some people were asking how these connect. And this brings us to the driveway garden. You can tell that we're going to get a storm. You can feel it in the air. Some people were asking about the liriope that lines the driveway garden. They were asking if I cut it back and if I like it. I do cut it back in, I guess, mid to late spring. I do not like it, honestly. I wish I would have done something like boxwood instead. You know, it only looks good for a small amount of time. It's kind of tough to divide. And then over the winter, it just really doesn't look nice. But you know what? I got it for free, so I'm thankful for that. So here's where I have all my double late tulips. We have Road Star Tulip and Midnight Magic. So let's get in closer on all of those. I can show you too that some of that shorter catmint that we planted together is starting to bloom now. And I've been trying to edit this garden down so that once again it can increase the repetition and decrease the one-off plantings. And I'm looking forward to adding that stone pathway right here really soon. More gladiator alliums. These are older bulbs. These are coming back from, I guess it was last year that I put these in. And I do like the combination of the crimsons and the purples. I think that looks really nice together. So let's get a closer look at each of these. So this one here that's more red is Midnight Magic. And then the darker one is Road Star. And then we have lots of foxglove, or as my husband says, ding dong bells, to look forward to that are also going to line this pathway. And I want to let all of this bloom before I disrupt anything here with that stone pathway. I think we planted these tulips together, didn't we, friends? And I like the look of them. I really struggle with these double late tulips. Once we get close, you'll see weather damage on them. Not really a sickness or a disease, but it just gets so hot so quickly, and you have all the moisture. And what we're looking at here isn't old blooms. These just bloomed, but they just never have a chance to really look good. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But next year, I might not do any late tulips. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So I think the garden is really going to hit another peak next week, and maybe that tour we'll call the May Garden Tour. I guess it seems like I almost have 1 week where I have an explosion of blooms and then kind of a resting period or an in-between period, and that's kind of what I feel like is happening now. Up all the trellises are Blue Reflection sweet peas. Every single trellis has the same sweet pea this year. But let me show you a surprise bulb over in the front yard garden. So you might remember how I did that big renovation up here last year. Well, I have never seen these yellow tulips before, and I didn't plant them, but yet here they are. So how do you think that happened? Was it just me clearing away all of that plant material? So I don't know how this happened or where these bulbs came from, but they were a pleasant surprise. I see we have a fern, a little blast from the past fern. The light's just beautiful now, isn't it? So let's head back into the garden library now. And today's book chat is going to be about floral design books. That was a request I had. And I think for the book chats, I'll try to keep it to just 2 books. But I'll show you an overview of all the books I have on that topic, in case you want to pause the video and find some more. Since the last time you saw the library, I did add a little bit of lighting. I added these wall sconces that I got from Amazon, and those are doing really good in terms of holding a charge. But I got a light bulb from Amazon to put in this Tiffany style lamp, and I think I'm going to return that because I think it's only lasting maybe 1 hour. So I have to think of something else. I might not even have that lamp in here because the sconces are doing a good job of lighting things up in the evening. So I have everything arranged by topic. So I kind of have cut flowers right here, or when you're talking about just a specific kind of flower, then garden design right here. And then most of my floral design books are right here. And let me grab the 2 that I feel like I couldn't live without. So I might have mentioned both of these books in the past, maybe even many years ago. But even though I get more books on floral design, these are still my 2 favorites. And I just go back to them over and over again to learn more, to discover more, to be re-inspired. But this one, Color Me Floral by Kiana Underwood, is my all-time favorite book on creating floral designs that have an artistic flair, that feel like the creator is coming through in the creation. I think that's so powerful. But the reason why this book is incredibly helpful is because she takes you step by step. And so I never knew how to design something that looked like this, but every single design in this book, she breaks it down by step. She tells you all the ingredients. And for me, it wasn't even so much about using the same ingredients or the same vessel or even the same colors. It was really just discovering how she structured these designs. And she always uses a pin frog, which you guys know I love. I'm crazy about pin frogs. But I love Kiana Underwood, and I think this is the most helpful book that I've ever purchased in terms of understanding how to create a more elaborate design. Now this book is just as good. It's called Cultivated: The Elements of Floral Style. Now this book is more pictures and instructions, not too much writing. This book is a little more writing with pictures. One thing I like about this book is that all of the pictures are just on one page. You know, when they do a spread and the floral design is on both pages and it's broken up, I don't really feel like you can get the sense of the design. But it's great just to look at the pictures of her work and to be inspired. But she gives you really great lessons all along the way. But once again, I just love her style. She has a more artistic flair. There's history lessons in this book, learning how to discover your own style. Constraint, you know, that's so important and really a hard thing for me personally. But this is just another great must-have book. And I think both of these should be at your local library because they have been around for a while. Well, friends, thanks so much for joining me for another weekly garden walk and talk. These are really fun to do, and it's nice to know that even if I mess up, even if my words don't come out right every once in a while, that you guys just accept me just the way I am, just the way that I'm feeling that day. And I just really appreciate that about each and every one of you. I have quite a few vlogs coming out this week, lots of fun things that we're going to get around to. But for now, I'm going to head off. I have a bag of pickle flavored popcorn calling my name and a nice cozy pair of football pajamas to put on. You know, if we wanted to make these garden tours really realistic, we would do one where I was in my PJs in the morning, wearing my sunglasses, and probably having on some boots. Boots, PJs, sunglasses, oh, and 2 Velcro rollers on the top of my head. Yeah, now that's a garden tour. I'll see you next time, friends. Bye.